Hello, this is take 3. This will be split into 2 parts because this is a lot to say. And anyway, here we go, because I don't want to trail up too much. I will probably sound robotic because I'm reading it off of this thing I typed up a while back. Anyway, let's get started. Um, my journey in finding a diagnosis, specifically in seeking evaluation in autism, started last fall, 2023, via a formal therapist. Autism was my main focus for a year or two, and it's hard to pinpoint when it started officially. I'm going to talk about the subject of autism, how it started for me. This is going to be a long story, but please bear with me, because I feel like talking about how I stumbled upon the subject is important for both me and others, and everyone's diagnosis is different and unique, and I enjoy learning about others' journeys. Thus, I hope my long anecdote, will resonate in some way. So my earliest memory of considering autism was back in 2015 when I was in my first full-time job position and I was struggling to keep up. I was getting by, but each project felt like I was drowning in a sea of miscommunication and doubt. During this, I would listen to podcasts to help pass the time while working. One in particular podcast, and I wish I knew what it was called. I don't remember the details of how I stumbled onto it, but it was a podcast about his experience with his autistic brother. And I do remember being interested in it, and at the time I only knew the bare basics of autism, like how I assumed it was reserved for young boys, even that the term Asperger's was still, and I was a child of the 90s, and that's the only extent of what I know about it. So fast forward a few years later, and 2 jobs later, I found myself not managing life how I wanted it to be. My assumption was the depression I'd had since puberty. However, there were the basic things adults can easily do, such as simple cooking and cleaning. Each day felt like a mountain to climb over. I often suffered these feelings of guilt and shame inside myself until I imploded. On top of that, I wanted to desperately work for myself because I was tired of impressing and sucking up to bosses that didn't understand me, and feeling understood is one of my banes of existence. However, I didn't think I was neurodivergent at the time. I didn't even know what the word meant. So things were murky after that. It's 2020, and COVID-19 was distracting me as well as the shame of guilt of just being. I didn't know how to be. I didn't know how to relax and unwind after work. Those emotions kept getting bigger to the point of crying myself into exhaustion. I mean, a lot of us were having a rough time at this time, so I still kept neurodivergency in the back of my mind. By this time, I only identified myself as an introvert and a highly sensitive person, also known as HSP. I also realized I had trouble being vulnerable to others, and that was a huge issue. I couldn't connect with people, not even within my circle of people. I have a friend group, but I felt unseen, and I don't consider them their fault, as opposed to I just felt unsafe to be myself. I didn't know who I was, and I know intuitively I was having a hard time to, as I said, to just be, even within a loving circle of accepting people. So enter this YouTube video that I wish I could link you to, but I couldn't find it for the life of me. I'm positive it was a talk by Dora Raymaker, who did a presentation on women with autism and how it manifests in girls. When she described girls with autism, I was amazed at how much I resonated, specifically in how autistic girls would find friends by laser focusing on one individual at a time, whereas neurotypical girls would cast a net by being friendly with anyone and see who would stay. The other thing that this presenter mentioned is that girls would often mask their autistic qualities to fit in with their peers. Thus, this was why autism in girls is hard to spot. This was revolutionary to me. I honestly thought this was what all people had been doing the whole time. I was trying to mimic and copy others, and it was constant. And it was a whole thing growing up. I considered and even prided myself as a chameleon that would just like mimic and flash into the colors to match my surroundings. But I also noticed it was hurting me. I had prevalent yet invisible meltdowns, sometimes physical meltdowns, which would involve locking myself in my room for hours. I didn't know who I was just following the crowd. But from that video, I realized that was the other issue. I couldn't connect with others, and I'm too busy trying to look normal, i.e. masking. As I said, I wish I knew where that video went. It was for sure years ago. If anyone knows what I'm talking about, please comment and let me know. The closest I found was this video, and which I'll put in the description. It's a good video, by the way, and I would recommend it, about like autism and burnout. And it's the same woman, Dora Raymaker, and I swear to God, she was wearing the same outfit at the time. But I could be misremembering, or they took the video down. Who knows? It was years ago. So anyway, after that, I pretty much shelved that idea until a year or two ago, when I was playing with the idea of self-diagnosing myself as autistic. But I felt a bad sense of imposter syndrome. I also found myself watching TV shows with autistic characters, and 3 of which that stood out were Atypical, Extraordinary Attorney Woo, and Everything is Going to Be Okay. These are mouthful names, but side note, I do recommend Everything is Going to Be Okay. The creator of the show is ADHD and autistic, and hell, one of the girls in the show is autistic in real life. I wasn't aware of that tidbit at the time, but when I found that out, it already resonated in me, but it was just an interesting realization when I looked it up that a lot of people on the neurodivergency were involved in the show like directly, and I think that's like very powerful. It was just amazing. It's a very different show. I highly recommend it. Like representation, I think it was a beautiful show, I think, and I'm sad it got canceled, but alas, please check it out, really. So I'm probably going to end it here. My last time, this is a take 3, right? So like this other couple of takes, I tried to test it out. YouTube didn't seem to want me to upload 15 minutes or more of content. I guess because I'm not very active on mine. So we'll end it here now and catch you in another vid, okay? Bye, peoples.